This is Kirill Kaprizov, and he's about to change everything we thought we knew about NHL contracts. Easily the biggest story of the offseason so far, Kaprizov has been making headlines with his ongoing contract negotiations with the Minnesota Wild. As we all know, the salary cap is on the rise, meaning contracts are only going to get bigger from this point on. But no one, and I mean no one, could have predicted the kind of number that Kaprizov might be signing on this new deal. With reported contract offers being turned down and now other teams inquiring about potential trades, things are starting to heat up in Minnesota surrounding their franchise player. So today, let's get you up to speed on everything going on with Kirill Kaprizov and his contract, but also break down what the upcoming season is going to look like for the Wild and why they absolutely need to keep this superstar at all costs. All those months ago when Kaprizov mentioned wanting to play in Chicago, we all took it lightly, thinking it was just a negotiation tactic, but now that we've seen all of this unfold, maybe there was some more weight to those words than we originally thought. But what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. The Minnesota Wild have been making headlines for all of the wrong reasons, you could say, as of late, and it's been a minute since I've talked about this organization, so I think it's about time we give you guys an update on what happened to the team last season, what their future looks like, and all of the stuff happening with Kirill Kaprizov. But before we get into all of that today, if you guys have been enjoying the content lately and want to continue supporting the channel, be sure to give this one a thumbs up and subscribe now. I have a sub goal of 30,000 that I want to reach by the end of the year, and I'm so confident and believe you guys can help me reach that goal. So if you want to keep supporting the channel, you know what to do. And with all of that being said, let's talk about the Minnesota Wild and Kirill Kaprizov. So, like we do in all of these videos, let's start with what happened last year. Coming into the season, Minnesota wasn't viewed as a legitimate contender. For years, they had been rebuilding with young, talented players, but contract buyouts had limited their flexibility, preventing them from making impactful in-season moves or gaining any sort of competitive advantage. So it came as a surprise to a lot of people when Minnesota got off to such a hot streak to begin the season, especially when you consider how many good teams were projected to be in their division. From opening night puck drop to the midway point of the season, Minnesota kept defying expectations with each passing game. Through the first 41 matchups, they had an impressive 26-11-4 record, second best in the Central Division and third best in the Western Conference. Much of that success was fueled by an MVP caliber start from Kirill Kaprizov, who was putting up monster numbers, but still, overall the team was playing well above expectations and the roster was finally off to a good start for the first time in years. Everything was going according to plan, more or less, and either players were meeting expectations or overachieving. That is, until injuries started to happen, and I don't mean just one here or there, no, I mean like a lot of injuries. Just to list off all of the names that were injured throughout the year, Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek each missed roughly half the season, while Middleton, Brodin, Faber, and Spurgeon all spent time on the sidelines as well. You name it, if it could go wrong injury-wise, the Wild had to deal with it. As a result, Minnesota struggled through the second half of the season, finishing with a 19-19-3 record. It was good enough to clinch a playoff spot, but it did come with a cost, as they were now forced to face the Vegas Golden Knights as a top wildcard seed. Going into that series, the Golden Knights were a heavy favorite, but despite losing the first game in what was actually a close matchup, Minnesota would storm back early in the series to grab a 2-1 lead against Vegas. It was nice to see them string together some wins with their full lineup, but like Wild teams of the past, they just let go of the rope and allowed Vegas to grab Game 4, then Game 5, and then sadly, their season would come to another disappointing ending when they lost at home in Game 6, marking a decade-long losing streak of not winning a playoff series since 2015. While the ending was disappointing, this playoff exit didn't sting as much as some of the other ones in the past. Let's be honest, the Wild weren't even expected to make the playoffs this year. They dealt with injuries all season long, and yet they still managed to battle through all of that and put together a respectable campaign. And to me, that deserves a lot of credit. And looking ahead, this team is only going to get better. and I'd actually argue that they've accumulated the best stock of young talent throughout any team in the NHL right now. The Wild already have promising young players like Brock Faber, Matt Boldy, and Marco Rossi, who have all worked incredibly hard to prove themselves and earn their spots within the lineup. And with Marco Rossi just signing a solid bridge deal at a very friendly AAV, this will allow Minnesota to see what he's capable of and still be able to have some cap flexibility throughout the year. But Minnesota's collection of talent doesn't end there. One of their top prospects is Zeev Buium, who appeared in 4 postseason games last season, demonstrating the potential that he has to become a top defenseman for this organization. And beyond Buium, they have other prospects like goalie Jesper Wallstedt and Yurov, as well as Ogren, all guys just waiting for an opportunity to be a part of this team and make an impact. Looking ahead, I, like many Minnesota fans, was feeling pretty excited about the Wild's future. That is, until the reports started to come out about their contract negotiations with Kirill Kaprizov. To say things have been going sideways maybe is a strong expression, but things haven't exactly gone as planned when it comes to extending Kirill Kaprizov to a new contract. To save you some time, there have been some factual stories and ones that hold little merit, but the latest storyline revealing Minnesota's biggest offer seems to be legitimate. The Wild reportedly offered Kirill Kaprizov an 8-year, $128 million deal that would carry an AAV of $16 million per season, thereby making him the highest paid player in NHL history. But the kicker is, Kaprizov and his agent turned this deal down. Now you might be thinking, how could he turn this down? He must be selfish or greedy, but let me explain what's happening here. Kaprizov is one of the best pure wingers in the NHL today. And right now, he is the heartbeat for Minnesota and arguably the most valuable asset they've had in their franchise's history. This, along with a no movement clause and the cap rising substantially over the next few seasons, gives Kaprizov's camp all of the leverage in negotiations, which could lead to 3 options for him in Minnesota. The first option is he wants to sign an Auston Matthews-like deal where it's maybe 4 years at around 16 to 18 million. That's a likely possibility if he wants to maximize his earning potential. The second option is he just wants more money per year, maybe wants to set the market even more. 18, 19 million. We could be talking about that with the cap rising. And the last option is he just doesn't want to play for Minnesota and won't sign a contract there, which to me feels like the least likely of the options because if he wanted to leave, he could just request a trade. So in my opinion, I think it's one of the 2 options. And I think by the end of this all, we're going to see him sign a deal that's pretty similar to Matthews, but just with a higher AAV. Regardless of which one of these options ends up being true, I don't think it's crazy to say that the future of the Wild depends on these negotiations. Losing Kaprizov, who when healthy is competing for Hart trophies, would be devastating to their offense and change the whole course of this franchise for years. Would Minnesota get something back for this player in a trade? Of course, but whoever they get back is going to be nowhere near as good as Kirill Kaprizov, and it will set them back in some way. Now, I am playing this up to show you guys the severity of how big of a deal this could be for Minnesota, but honestly, I can't imagine that he's not going to re-sign with Minnesota. The front office is open about wanting to get a deal done, and it seems like they're willing to offer him whatever he wants and that they're getting closer by the day. So I guess just be patient and let's see how this all unfolds over the next few weeks, but I imagine that Kirill Kaprizov is going to be a Minnesota Wild for a long time. So, Minnesota fans, hockey fans, that's really all I got for you today. As always, we still have plenty to unpack, and I would love to hear from you guys in the comments below. So drop your thoughts about the upcoming season for the Wild and whether or not you think Kirill Kaprizov is going to sign an extension with the team. Thank you guys as always for watching this video. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up and subscribe now. I also have a few other pieces of content for you to check out as we finish out the off season, so be sure to watch those after this one. Again, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel and watching this video. I will see you in the next upload.